That feels good. So I don't know if you've heard, but we are here with Reba McEntire. We are going to talk about her brand new record, Sing It Now, Songs of Faith and Hope. I guess let's just go back to, this is your first gospel record. When did you know you wanted to make a gospel record?
I didn't know I wanted to make a gospel record. My manager, Bill Carter, he was my manager in the middle 80s. Mm-hmm. He came to me and he said, I think it's really important that you do a gospel inspirational album at this time in your career. And I said, okay, well, that's a good idea. And I didn't do anything with it. This was a couple of years ago. And then Tony Brown, who has been my producer since 1990, came and said the same thing. I said, man, there must be something to this.
Right.
So we started talking about it, Nash Icon, Jim Weatherson, and he said, well, let's team up with Capital Christian, Bill Hearn, and see what they think. And everybody was for it, and so we proceeded.
You had recently been through a bit of a hard patch personally. I wonder, were you gravitating towards this music, and that's why people were coming to you and saying, you know, we see you listening to this, maybe this is a good idea?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Right.
But it sure did. I believe timing is everything, and everything happens for a reason.
Right. Your sister Susie is a gospel singer. I wonder, did she give you any advice when you started recording and planning this out?
No, she just said that you'll have a great time with it, and I know it'll be a huge success.
Right.
You'll do real good.
Well, that's nice to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is a family record in many ways. Your mother's a co-writer on a song. You've got your sister singing. Kelly Clarkson is on a song. Why did it make sense with this sort of music to also include so many close people in your life?
Well, I think it's always an added bonus to the fans, to the listeners, if we have something on the record other than just myself. The Isaacs, who I'm a huge fan of, that family harmony, which is so rich. Right. I absolutely love to listen to their music. And so I thought to have Kelly on it was kind of payback, because I did go do her Silent Night song on her Christmas special with Trisha, and I love to sing with those two girls. Right. And so I asked Kelly if she would be on it, and she said yes. And, well, really, I emailed them at the same time, Trisha and Kelly. I said, hey, gals, let's go do this again, and they said yes. So
what's the studio atmosphere like between you guys? Is it like a long day of chatting and singing, or is it like a pretty, like, well-oiled machine?
It's lunch, which was a long lunch, and then it's a long session, more visiting and talking and telling stories than singing.
Right. Okay.
And the engineers and everybody was sitting up there, shouldn't y'all get in there in the studio and start singing? Oh, yeah, that's why we're here.
You've been open about your faith throughout your career, but I'm curious, like, were there any nerves about putting something that is so faith-based out?
Yes, there was. There really was, because I'm a normal human being. I'm not perfect in any way, and I thought maybe they were going to put me under a microscope and start saying, well, you do this, 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 and I just have to say, yeah, I do, but I also am a firm believer in God, and I have strong faith, and I love to sing these songs, so take me as I am or let me go.
Thank you very much. On the flip side, I wonder what has been the greatest reward in having so many conversations about your faith and fans' faith and kind of like experiencing that together.
What's the biggest surprise, or what was the biggest what?
Reward. Like, what are you getting out of sort of like that full circle moment?
People are accepting me for what I am. And I've also gotten to learn more about other people and their faith.
Right.
I think it's kind of like if you admit, confess, that you believe your faith is what's getting you through each day, especially through the hard times, people come and talk to you about it, and you kind of help each other. So that's one thing that's been really, really a huge reward.
Right.
These songs are very healing. They've healed me. They've helped me, like music always has.
Right.
But this is different. This is more intense. This is more diving into the heart of things.
I was actually going to bring that up. I mean, following a period in your life in which you go through a divorce, you lose your father, I think people expect someone's next work to be a little bit somber, a little bit harder, and there's so much uplift on this record. It does sound like you had a healing process go on there.
Yeah. I like to say that good comes out of bad. God always makes good out of bad. And the best thing about Daddy's passing is that he was saved, and he did give his life to the Lord. So I know he's in a better place. He suffered for 3 or 4 years, so that was truly a blessing when he did go on to see the Lord. And I more rejoiced than I mourned his passing.
Right. That's awesome. You're nearing 30 studio albums, plenty more live, compilation, other stuff. At this point, do you know exactly what you're doing with your studio plans, or is everyone uniquely challenging? Well, with that in mind, then I guess what was the biggest challenge or the biggest surprise of this process?
I'll tell you what the biggest surprise was, and it was a huge thrill for me
Right.
because they came to me and said, all right, we want 10 songs. And I said, how about 5 old, 5 new?
Right. They
They said, okay, that's a great concept. So we went in and recorded. Jay DeMarcus of Rascal Flatts co-produced some of them. Doug Sizemore, my musical director, band leader, co-produced some of them with me. And we got carried away.
Right.
We did too many. And so I brought it in to Jim and I said, all right, here you go. Here's the project.
Right.
Take out what you don't like. And they came back and said, we can't. And I said,
Right.
what are you going to do? And he said, go record 5 more.
And so we made it. So it's a double album. If we
Yeah, so
explain that.
one album is 10 songs
Right.
of the hymns and the songs we all grew up with. And the other CD is 10 brand new songs.
Right.
And then 2 bonus songs that we have. And that was a huge surprise, and I was thrilled to pieces with that.
Do you have enough left over for like a Sing It Now Part 2?
No, not yet. I mean, I've got some hoarded on my computer that I could
Right.
definitely say, let's go in and record
Right.
them. But
That's awesome.
we didn't record anymore. We just did the 5 like they told
Okay.
us. We were good kids.
When you were going through all of these old songs, like you're saying, songs you grew up with, songs from the church, songs from school, was it kind of a trip down memory lane where you got to like relive some stuff?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Which one did you you were like, oh, I forgot about that one. I can't wait that we rediscovered this.
Well, what I did was, I can't exactly answer that
That's all right.
question, but what I did was I went through the old hymnal that was from the one room
Right.
church there in Chalky, Oklahoma that I'd had for years, and I started going through it, and I said, okay, gotta write that down, and I had a bunch of songs, and then I went back through which ones are the ones that bring memories to my mind, and when you hear those songs and you sing them, you can smell that room.
Right.
You know, it was kind of stale and musty,
Right.
and it was old. And so I started picking the ones that I remember Grandma Smith and Grandpa Smith standing up there singing. And one of them was I'll Fly Away.
Right.
And that's the one I wanted Mama Alice and Susie to sing with me.
That's awesome.
I think that's the end of that thought.
Yeah.
I'm not for sure.
Great. Got there at the same time.
Okay, good.
There is one memory that I want to share. Jesus Loves Me was the first song you ever perform in public, and
Yeah.
now it is here. So can you just tell me about that first time you ever performed it?
Well, the best of my knowledge of recollection and having family members help me with this, we were in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Daddy was competing at the rodeo. Daddy had been performing at Cheyenne Frontier Days Rodeo since he was 16 years old. And he had won it several times. Grandpap, Daddy's daddy,
Right.
won the Steer Open in 1934.
So you guys were celebrities by the time you got to town.
Well, I don't know about celebrities, but we had been there a long
Sure.
time. They knew who we were. Let's
Sure.
just say it that way. So we were staying at the Frontier Hotel there in Cheyenne, and back in those days, you didn't have televisions in the room, so everybody congregated in the lobby. And the Cowboys, you know, of course, it was not during a performance, it was after. And so they got Paik, my older brother, by 2 years to get up and sing a song for entertainment, pastime. And he sang You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog. Well, one of the Cowboys gave him a quarter, and I went, And so I got Paik over to the side, and I said, well, help me out with a
Right.
song. He said, well, you know Jesus Loves Me.
Right.
So I got out there in the middle of the floor, and I sang Jesus Loves Me, and they gave me a nickel.
Right.
I've been fighting that ever since.
So if that's your first time performing live, did you take to it immediately? Be like, I want to keep doing this, or were you like, that was not worth it?
Honest to God, it was too long ago for me to remember what my response was. But that's the only good attention I could ever get was when I would sing. I got in trouble a lot because I was mischievous and always doing stuff I shouldn't have been doing because of curiosity. And so singing was the thing that Mom and Daddy always encouraged me to do. I wanted to be a world champion barrel racer.
Okay.
I wanted to be a basketball player. I couldn't do either one of them very well at all, but I tried hard. And so singing was the thing that really got me the good attention, so I kept doing that.
That's awesome. Elsewhere on the album, a little bit in the newer songs, you cover Randy Houser. I wonder, were you aware of his music since he debuted? Because that was on his first record.
Oh, that was one of my favorite
Okay.
albums of all time. Was his first album.
Right.
And I was very upset when they didn't release Back to God.
Right.
Now I'm very grateful that they didn't. And I got an email from Randy yesterday how thrilled he is that song found its home.
That's awesome. I mean, I guess I also wonder, like, when you're going through the process of finding a song, do you contact him immediately and you're like, I wonder how you had wanted this to be sung? Or do you always try and interpret it on your own?
I interpreted it on my own because I was a little worried about doing my version better than his because I loved his version so much.
Right. You didn't want to sound like you were imitating him.
Right.
Right, yeah. Totally.
Yeah, and I loved his whole album, but that song just stood out for me.
Right.
And his album was like the albums I like to do. It's very eclectic, lots of different types. But he said he and his brother-in-law wrote that song and didn't know what would ever happen to it. But when you get a gift like that to write it, you do it.
Right.
And you just have to see what's supposed to happen with it.
I don't think it's ever bad news if Reba McEntire is the one who wants to cut it.
You're sweet. Thank you very much.
I want to talk about some of the other things that you've got going on. You have a TV drama in the works.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what it's about? I've heard it's kind of dark.
Very dark. It is. Mark Cherry of Desperate Housewives wrote this 1-hour drama, and I was his muse.
Right.
And he said, I can see Reba McEntire as a sheriff in a small town in the South. And I said, all right.
I think they agree.
So we'll see how that turns out. But we're supposed to shoot the pilot in March.
Okay.
And if ABC says, yes, it's a go, then we'll be shooting the series, the first season, in August and September.
That's awesome. I think people don't necessarily equate you with dark heavy. What attracted you to sort of this like other thing to do?
My producers from the Reba Show and the Malibu Country,
Right.
I called them and I said, guys, I'm really ready to get back into television. I'm missing it really bad. And so they put the feelers out around Hollywood, and they went to Mark Cherry and said, Reba wants to get back into television. He said, come back in 2 months.
Okay.
I've got an idea. And in 2 months, they got a hold of him. He said, yeah, come visit with me. And so they loved the idea.
That's awesome.
And so they said, Reba, come out to L.A. We've got some people want to meet with you. I had 2 meetings, which didn't amount to anything,
Right.
that I was interested in, and went over to Mark Cherry's house, and he said, come on out to the pool house. I got an idea for you. And he presented me the whole first season.
Okay.
Not just an idea.
Right, the whole thing.
And it was so intricate. We went to 9 or 10 different places to pitch it, to see who wanted to take it to series.
Right.
And every time he would tell it, he would embellish it just a little bit more. And we'd walk out and I'd say, oh, you added that new. He said, you are paying attention.
You realized it was still in the works.
Yeah, it's so good.
What was it that you were missing about television, I guess?
I love everything about television. I love doing a 30-minute sitcom is the best form of entertainment because you get a new script each week.
Right.
You get to play with fun people who are hysterical, like Melissa Peterman and Chris Rich and Steve Howie and Joanna Garcia, which I just love with all my heart.
Right.
And so then to do another one, you get to be somebody else and a character that you're not.
Right.
It's just fun.
That's awesome. I think there's probably a lot of people who are also wondering if you're missing Broadway at all.
Oh, love Broadway.
Would you want to get back to it?
I would. I really would. It's the hardest work I've ever done in my
Right.
life. Thank you. Thanks. I would love to do it. But it's just like a song. You've got, simple it down, a dress.
Right.
People will say, what kind of dress are you going to wear for the CMA Awards? I said, I don't know. I'll know it when I see it.
Right.
And they said, well, what are you looking for? I said, well, if I knew that, I would draw it up for you if I could.
Right.
But you'll know it when you'll hear it. A song, you'll know it when you hear it. And the same way with a script. I mean, you better be in love with that script and the music, everything involved in a Broadway play or a play in general, because you're taking a lot of people's time and energy and money rehearsing and another person's spot that could take that if you don't put your heart and soul in on it.
You're also devoting an enormous amount of your own time to it. I mean, there has to be something that you get from the crowd to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, always. That live performance at a Broadway play is so special. And then doing a television show, you have to wait.
Right.
to see what kind of response you get. And you can do it several times and say, well, okay, that's the best I can do. Now let's go to the next scene. Right. With Broadway, with on a play, what you see is what you get. There's no take two on that.
Did you have any like mess ups while you were doing the show?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, several. One, I was stage right, and John Shuck, who was playing Buffalo Bill, was on giving his speech and everything, and all of a sudden I heard silence. I'm like, oh crap, I'm supposed to be on stage, and I looked at John, and John was looking right at me, and I went, right on stage real quick.
I bet you only have to do that once before that never happens again.
You're exactly right. And one night, I went up on a line, I forgot it, just totally forgot it, and the gentleman I was on stage with, he looked at me, because I'd said, oh, are you going to do that? And he went, and I said, well, are you? And he said, oh, yeah, she's forgot her lines, and I'm going to go on with the next line.
Right, then he jumped in. That's awesome.
I apologized to him so many times, but that happens.
Somehow this is happening for the first time this year for you. You're going to headline the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, we're excited about that.
I guess I'm curious even why it's taken this long to get there.
I never thought about it.
Okay.
I never, you travel all over the world touring and everything. It's right there in your backyard.
Right.
And everybody was doing that. And this is the anniversary. It's very special. I think 125th year anniversary. And, I thought that would be very special. And that was the only vacation my family ever took, was to go to the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville. We traveled rodeoing all the time, but that was considered work, making a living.
Do you remember who you saw?
Oh, well, I waited for Connie Smith and Marty Robbins. Those are my two favorites. And if they weren't on the bill that night, I was going to be so disappointed. And so luckily, they always were.
I think there's a lot of people who hope that you make return visits to the Ryman.
Oh, thanks.
It is closed.
That's sweet.
Somewhere else you're making a lot of returns to is Vegas with Brooks Dunn. What has that experience meant to you to just team up with people who you've known for that long?
Well, we toured together 4 different times in the 90s. And then when they retired,
the whole world wept.
Oh, I sure did. I missed it so much. And so we were all out to dinner one night several years ago, and we were talking about where we're all going to go on vacation. And somebody said, why don't you go somewhere where you can make some money and pay for the vacation?
Was that your manager?
No, one of our friends.
Okay.
And so somebody said, yeah, like Vegas. And I looked at Kix and Ronnie. I said, would y'all be up for that? And they said, yeah, we would.
Awesome.
So we've been doing it. This is our 3rd year, and we're having a blast with it.
Right. I guess I also just wonder, at this point, we've talked about TV, Broadway, albums, everything. What is there still left that you hope to accomplish?
I don't know. I really don't know. Ideas, things come to me. People, I asked God one time, I said, you give the ideas to everybody. Won't you let me have the ideas?
Right.
He said, well, if you did it all, you wouldn't need me. And I said, okay, I'm good with everybody else coming up with ideas.
I'll take that to mind.
Yeah.
That's all for me. We're going to take a couple questions from the audience.
All right. Got one there in the back.
Oh, hey, Reba.
Oh, you've got the microphone.
Got the mic.
Oh, he's got clout here. Okay, go ahead.
First of all, congratulations on the new album.
Thank you.
You mentioned briefly that your mom was on the album, and I believe she also has a co-writing credit. So that must be very special for you.
It is.
What's the best advice that she's ever given you?
Mama gave me a lot of advice, as you can imagine. But her thing was, if you start something, finish it. Like one time, this is minor, but this was years ago, I said, we were leaving a rodeo, and I said I'd sit in the back because it was an open bed pickup truck. Well, 5 minutes down the road, I was tapping, and I said, I want in the front. I don't like this. And she said, no, you say you're going to do something, you finish it. So that, I'll never forget that. I was probably 11 years old. But now, in my life, I tell my son, you start something, you finish it. He wanted to quit college at Thanksgiving, his first year. I said, no, you're going to finish it. And he finished his first year, and I bribed him a little bit. And I said, if I let you go to Bondurant Racing School for 4 days, would you finish the year? He said, absolutely. And he finished the year and set track records at Bondurant Racing School. So it all worked out. You bet.
Hi,
Hi, Reba.
Okay. Hey there.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I was going to ask you about the Ryman show, but obviously y'all kind of covered that. Sometimes we can think way back to a red dress you wore one time. Are there ever photos that like fans take or publicity photos that show up that like really embarrass you and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have been wearing that or I shouldn't have done that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then I'll get it. I'll copy it on my computer, and then I'll do a little Photoshop, little cropping, you know, or delete completely. Yeah, that's happened. That sure has.
Got over here.
Uh-huh.
Hi.
Hi.
Out of all the songs that you've ever sang, which ones are your favorites?
Well, Fancy has to be my favorite. But since this album has come out, I've gotten a few more favorites. The one that touches my heart the most is How Great Thou Art. That was Grandma's favorite song. And so I'd say that's right up there with Fancy. And it's so weird that one's about a prostitute and one's a love letter to God.
There you go. That's
Covering all bases right there.
And I think right here.
Hi, Reba. I'm Catherine from Boston.
Hi, Catherine.
I'm really excited to talk to you.
Thank you.
Do you have any like good stories from when you were recording with like your mom, Alice, and Susie?
Yeah. When we were doing I'll Fly Away, we were in one room together with one microphone. And Susie and I, of course, we're microphone hogs. So we were right up on the microphone singing our little hearts out, and we noticed Mom and Alice were back. And I said, get up here. And every time we'd start singing, they would creep a little bit further back. And so I was directing them how we're going to end the song, away. And Mama would get it backwards every time, and we got the giggles. And when us four get the giggles, it gets pretty funny. So we had to kind of start again about 4 or 5 times. So it was a lot of fun.
And then one more.
Hi, Reba. With everything going on in the country today, I feel like your album is exactly what people needed to inspire them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So what I wanted to know is what inspires you?
What inspires me? Hope, faith, good people, kind people inspire me. If you're kind, that'll go a long way, because that means you're considerate, you're compassionate. So if everybody would be kind, we wouldn't be having, I don't think, any of these problems we have today. Just be kind. That inspires me. Good question. That's sweet.
I think that's a great note to end on. Reba, thank you for being here. Sing It Now is out now.
Thank you. Thank y'all very much. Loved your questions.